I tell my clients this all the time. You don't need grand gestures, but you do need effort. Because a man who won't invest in you at the beginning will definitely not invest in you when life gets hard. If he cuts corners on courting, he'll cut corners in marriage. If a man asks you out for coffee, send him an invoice. Charge him $500 because that's closer to the real value of your time, your energy.
This divorce lawyer is asking women to charge men $500 if they want a coffee date. And the reason she's saying it's $500, it's simply because that is the value of their time. You do reach a point once in a while when you're watching content where you run into people that are not only delusional, but also give people in those particular niches a bad name. Just because you have a microphone, it doesn't necessarily mean you should be using it. And this is going to be a textbook example of this particular case. So we're going to switch over to this screen and I'm going to show you how ridiculous this is.
A man asks you out on a coffee date, charge him $500. As a divorce lawyer, let me tell you why. Coffee is for colleagues. Coffee is not for courting. Would that man ask Margot Robbie out on a coffee date? When a man asks you out on a coffee date, what he's really saying is, I want your time, your energy, your presence at the lowest possible cost to me. Coffee is cheap. Coffee is convenient. Coffee takes zero effort. And yet your time is not cheap. Your presence is not convenient.
There is a little bit of absurdity going on here. Outside of the fact that you're demanding $500 of the guy asking for a coffee date, you're sort of defeating the whole purpose of getting to know someone genuinely. This is a good example of women keeping other women single without realizing it. Or maybe she does realize that this is exactly what she's doing, and that's the goal, so that you can have people going back to her and simply wasting their time, money, and effort watching this schlop, because that's what it essentially is. She's basically stating that a man wouldn't do this to Margot Robbie. Let me tell you something, ladies. You are not Margot Robbie. No, this might come as a shock, but you are actually your own person. You are not a multi-millionaire superstar that can basically have her pick of the litter. And realistically, Margot Robbie is also not going to be on Tinder or OkCupid or any of these applications. She already has suitors. She probably has people in her DMs daily. She's going to be around the type of people that are going to provide her the type of lifestyle that she wants. I highly doubt she's going to date your average Joe Schmo. Or maybe she might. Who knows? I mean, we never know for sure, right? What's silly about this whole thing is that this lady's saying that because she is a divorce lawyer, right? I don't know what being a divorce lawyer has to do with the fact that somebody wants to meet you for a coffee date. This person is trying to get to know who you are as a human being. Why should they invest such a high degree? If you met on a dating application, are you realistically expecting anything more? By her logic, if she's being consistent with what she's saying, then if the guy does spend that amount of money, by default, should the woman sleep with him in the beginning? Should she not have a choice? Should she just be like, okay, well, he did spend $500 on me, so I think I'm going to have to give you something back in return? No, that's silly, okay? The reason you have a coffee date in the beginning is so that you can actually get to know the individual that you're speaking to, all right? It's low effort, yes, but sometimes you need low effort. What if you don't vibe with each other? What if there's just no chemistry? And at the very least, you could sit down for 30 minutes, drink a cup of coffee or a glass of wine or whatever, and get to know each other. And you know what? If you're feeling each other and it goes beyond that point, then you can continue to date and be like, hey, you know what? Let's go somewhere nicer, or let's plan out something where we won't have a specific time limit and we could hang out as long as we want. That should be the goal, right? People like this, and this is purely done on purpose. Women like this keep other women single because they're setting an unrealistic standard that many men are not going to be able to compete with.
Convenient, and your energy is not effortless. It's valuable. I've seen women pour hours of their lives into men who never invested more than the price of a latte. They call it getting to know you, but really, it's about seeing how much they can get without giving. And the problem is,
no, it's really not. That's not how men function. This is the problem when you try to have women and men alike do this. Like, men typically do this on the women's end where they try to tell other men what women want. And women also are doing this in this particular situation like she is. You don't know that. It's not that they're trying to get to know you for the cheapest price possible. They're trying to see if you're worth the effort, period. Okay? Because not everybody is. Just because you're a woman, it doesn't mean that you levitate above the rest of us. You are merely a human being, just like I am. And why should I invest anything greater than a cup of coffee? A cup of coffee is not bad. It can turn into something else. Okay. It doesn't mean that it's low effort. You shouldn't want to make a grand gesture at the very beginning when you don't even know this person. The same way a woman is well within her right to not sleep with you because she doesn't know you, a man should also have the same right to be like, hey, you know what? I don't want to spend $1 million on the first date. And let's face it, if you're going to spend $500 or you're going to ask for an invoice of $500, the guy might as well sleep with a prostitute. Let's be realistic here. He'll probably have somebody that's more attractive and that'll give him like the whole shebang experience. And then he doesn't have to worry about calling her afterwards. So you're kind of just incentivizing men to just be like, why waste the effort and get to know you when you're going to charge me $500 and I could just simply pay this lovely sex worker here to get my needs met. It's really silly.
Is too many women accept it. The standard you set on the first date is the one you'll be judged by the whole relationship. Men who are serious don't ask you for the bare minimum. They plan, they invest, they create experiences because they understand that your time is worth more than $6 and an awkward conversation over burnt espresso.
Yeah, the burnt espresso is a real thing. You know what? I'll tell you this much. If you are going to go on a coffee date, avoid Starbucks because I guarantee you that is a very quick way to not get a second date. Because if that cup of coffee is horrible, I am out of there. No, but seriously, what she said was really silly. And I'm surprised with her background being that she is a lawyer. I would expect her to have enough education to know that just because you have a first date that requires low effort, it doesn't mean you're going to be like that your entire relationship. That's not the way the world works. There is something called escalation, progression. The more you get to know somebody, the more you sink yourself into another human being, you do invest more in them. That's the whole point of an investment. An investment happens over time because you feel that this person is worth your time and effort. And because of that, you're going to invest more and more and more in them. But in the beginning, your investments should always be low. Okay. If you're buying stock or if you're getting crypto or whatever one of these like scams you're doing, you're not going to throw all your money in the first token that comes out. You're going to wait a bit. You're going to put a little bit and see if you get some dividends from that. And if you do, then you'll continue to invest more and more and more. That's how these things are done. And yes, it also works this way with people. Just because someone's attractive or gives you a first good impression, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the way they're always going to be. Have you heard the term meeting the person's ambassador first? That exists for a reason, because when you meet somebody, you're not really meeting them. You're meeting their avatar, the person that they choose to show you in order to portray the best version of themselves. It's the equivalent of you going to a job interview. You put on a suit and tie, you comb your hair. If you're a woman, you wear like a nice outfit and, you put on your best perfume. You try to make an effort in those moments because you're trying to get something in the beginning. But it's not the same principle as a date, especially a coffee date. This is low resolution thinking. If you want to really get to know somebody, there should be little building blocks that stack up. And then over time, you get to do a greater investment. This lady has absolutely no idea what she's talking about.
I tell my clients this all the time. You don't need grand gestures, but you do need effort. Because a man who won't invest in you at the beginning will definitely not invest in you when life gets hard. If he cuts corners on courting, he'll cut corners in marriage. If a man asks you out for coffee, send him an invoice. Charge him $500 because that's closer to the real value of your time, your energy, and your presence.
Straight delusion. And you know what's funny? I know deep down she doesn't realistically think this will work. She knows it won't work. As a matter of fact, I guarantee you if she is giving this advice to women and they do go out on a coffee date and the lady does in fact send that individual a $500 invoice, they're going to look at it and laugh, especially if they didn't get none. I don't really see this working as a realistic solution. And again, this is her, of course, being hyperbolic. She knows realistically that no one is going to do that. If you're tailoring to a specific type of woman, then sure, maybe if you're like a sugar baby and you're on these like seeking arrangement sites and you got a bunch of pay pigs, then yeah, these are probably going to be the type of men that will give you that early investment because they're not really trying to be with you. They're trying to buy your time. They're trying to buy your comfort. But your average Joe Schmo that works a regular 9 to 5 does not have the disposable income to spend $500 on a first date or anywhere near that amount. It could even be $250. Do you really know what it is for a young man, especially that's just starting out his job journey? All right. Picture it like this for a moment, if you will. Put this in your mind's eye. Let's pretend that this dude just turned 18 years old. He started working at McDonald's, anything just to make ends meet, just to sort of have like college money or food money or whatever the case may be. And he fancies a young lady that he met in one of his classes and, he wants to take her out. he's not going to have $500 to spend, nor probably even have his own place. And if you're thinking that if that's the case, then he shouldn't be dating, then that's the wrong way of looking at it, because this lady is also young and they're going to be roughly around the same level. Now, if you want to fast forward and pretend that this guy's not 18 anymore and he's 25, for example, yes, by then you're probably a little more established if you've done the right moves for your life, which a lot of people haven't. Let's face it. If that is indeed the case, right? And let's say that you're no longer at McDonald's, you're working construction now and you're making like $150 a day or $200 a day if the unions aren't taking all your money. That's still a big investment. That would mean that this guy has to work 3 to 4 work shifts of backbreaking labor just to take you out for a date that you're probably not going to call him back for. Because if you're not interested, then there won't be a second date. And that's the whole purpose of having a low effort date in the beginning. Now, granted, look, I will extend an olive branch here, okay, fellas? If you do indeed want to spend this amount of money on the first date, or she's not saying to spend $500 specifically, she's just stating that you should put more effort, which I do get. I'm not ignorant to this. For anyone in the comments that's like, that's not what she said. I know, I'm aware. If you do decide to spend this amount of money, then hey, mazel tov, good for you. I'm glad that you can afford it. But again, if you're talking to the average person, which is the majority of the population, this is not going to realistically be the case. The majority of men out there don't make over 100K a year. For those that do, they're probably burning that midnight oil and they're going to want to protect their investment. There's nothing wrong with spending some money on a first date. I don't think there is anything wrong with that at all. But if you don't really know each other like that, you can't expect that type of investment. There's nothing wrong with a coffee date. There's nothing wrong with taking a walk in the park. Heck, y'all could even have a picnic, bring your own food and just like sit somewhere with a blanket, Someone that really likes you, that values who you are as a person, it's not going to count your wallet, okay? They're going to think about the emotional time that you're investing in them. I think it says a lot more about a man and a woman that are both willing to kind of not spend $1 billion on a first date and just really actually get to know each other. Because if you have to spend that much just to get a woman's attention, she's probably not into you, she's into your wallet. I'm sure this lady has some sort of good advice somewhere in her channel, but this is the video that I saw. This is what popped up on my feed. And this is what I am reacting to. If you want to see what else I reacted to, you could check up here. I'm going to put up another video that I think was really good and I think y'all should all check out. With that said, deuces.